falls in line. We live and learn from our mistakes. The deepest cuts are in our faith. Now I believe there comes a time when everything just falls in line. We live and learn from our mistakes. The deepest cuts are healed by faith. Now I believe there comes a time when everything just falls in line. We live and learn from our mistakes. The deepest cuts are healed by faith. Now I believe. Oh, welcome to RenéMarie Stokeluk. I'm RenéMarie. We had to start this show in a different fashion this time because our executive producer, executive technical director, Jim, is not feeling well. Of course, everybody knows that he has a spinal injury and he's in a lot of pain and he's going for a few more surgeries. So we had to keep in our prayers, Jim, because he's an important part of our team and he has really been an important instrument into why we're here and how we do this. So, Jim, we're thinking about you. Hope you'll watch and you'll be able to send a little sign that you're doing a little bit better. Just giving you some hope. We're so honored. Well, Happy New Year, everybody. I got a lot going on in my brain because I'm the technical director today. The technical directors have got to put on different hats. I should have had different hats so I could put it on. But Happy New Year, everybody. This is our 10-year telethon anniversary celebration year. So we're really taking this year to welcome back everybody that has been a part of this journey for us. We cannot tell you how honored and privileged and humbled we are to have the opportunity to come into your homes and to wherever you are watching us, and to really be an advocate like Ilene is an advocate for patients, for advocacy for strokes and aphasia, and to bring awareness to strokes and aphasia, and really to bring hope to everybody and to spread a little love. That's one of our missions in life. We know that love is the answer to everything. So we pray that we are doing that. And we'd love to hear from you. If you have any comments or thoughts or suggestions or whatever, just reach out to us. We're all over the place. You can reach us on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on website, email, all that kind of stuff. So please, please, please reach out to us. This show is dedicated. Let me see if I could bring up a photo, share the screen. Hold on one second. Share screen. Yep, here we go. This show is dedicated to loving memory of Ralph Cortellessa. Ralph Cortellessa passed on, went into heaven last year, not last year, June 12th, 2020, right during the pandemic. And his mom and his dad are really very dear, dear friends of mine. Without Dom, this wouldn't be happening. It wouldn't have manifested the way it did. So they're really instrumental parts to this organization and to my life and to friendship, and really Dom is a confidant, Dottie is an angel. So we're making this show in loving memory of Ralph Cortellessa. We hope that everybody just takes a moment to go out and share love with your family and friends, and to know that in one split second, one split second, things could change, and not for the better, not for the better. So we're praying for Dom and Dottie and their entire family, and we just wanted to spread a little love with this dedication. Now I have to get out of here. How do I? Let's see. New share. Stop shop sharing. Perfect. I did it. Woohoo! Okay, so to the show. Today's show is really important because Ilene and Jennifer, Dr. Jennifer, have been on our show before. And I got a Facebook message last year. I actually heard from somebody that that Ilene's son, Steven, had a stroke. And I'm like, Judy, I sent Judy a message. I'm like, Judy, find out if it's true, because, you know, who knows on social media and through the network, you know, what comes up. So she did, and she found out. And then I got a message from Ilene asking if we had any organization, you know, in our organization, if we supported stroke patients and their families in the hospital at that moment. And I actually said to Ilene, I said, no, but it's in our cap that if you look back on our shows, we wanted to start that. So that's going to go into our next 10-year vision, how to make that happen. And I'm sure with Ilene on our team, we can make anything happen because she's dynamic. But the point to the matter is that Steven had an eye stroke, so that's why Dr. Jennifer's here. But this stroke, a stroke, could happen to anybody at any time. So it doesn't matter if you're a doctor. It doesn't matter whether you got money. It doesn't matter if you're, you know, it doesn't matter who you are. It affects you, because 80% of strokes can be prevented, but then that other 20%, like with Steven, it came out of the blue, I believe. I have not heard the story because I don't like to hear their stories until we come live on the show, so that it's fresh and they don't have to repeat themselves 20 million times. So we're going to as always, we're going to let Judy read her press that she always does wonderful. And before we get into it, also, Vinny from the first show we had to reschedule to February 11th because he is sick. He can't talk. So that's why the first show didn't happen today. But I want to make sure, everyone, that the sound is going through on the Facebook. Can you hear it, Ilene? Are you looking on? Can hear it on Ilene, on Facebook? Just if somebody could just do me a favor and check to make sure, because I want to make sure that everything is good.
Yeah, I'm not doing two things at once, so somebody else.
Okay. So Judy, as you're reading, I will shut my sound and make sure that we can hear it, because I want to make sure that everything is okay. Okay, Judy, go ahead, read away.
Welcome all. We will be featuring our returning guest, Ilene Corina, BCPA, Board Certified Patient Advocate and President, Founder of Pulse Center for Patient Safety and Education, and special guest Steven Corina, her son, who suffered an eye stroke. In addition, we've added returning guest Dr. Ceonzo, OD, FCOVD, speaking about vision after stroke. Ilene Corina was instrumental in getting New York State lawmakers to pass the landmark Patient Health Information and Quality Improvement Act of 2000, which called for the creation of a statewide health information system. Ilene was selected for Modern Healthcare's list of 100 most powerful people in healthcare in 2009, and as one of the 50 experts leading the field in patient safety by Becker's Hospital Review in 2013. She received a scholarship to the American Hospital Association National Patient Safety Foundation, Patient Safety Leadership Training where she developed the Healthcare Equality Project to study the needs of vulnerable populations. A board member of the National Patient Safety Foundation from 2002 through 2017, Ilene co-chaired the Patient and Family Advisor Council from 2002 to 2008. In 2002, she spearheaded the first Patient Safety Awareness Week. Ilene has authored 2 books, Teaching Patient Safety, An Educator's Guide, and Rants of a Patient Safety Advocate. She has appeared as a patient safety expert on many news shows and has been quoted in articles and many newspapers and magazines. Ilene is leading a team creating the Take Charge campaign, 5 steps for safe healthcare, and has developed a program to train ambassadors to share the program. In addition, now she has added education and awareness of stroke to her program agenda. Steven Corina felt, he's 31 years of age, he felt that his eyes were not seeing well, and his friends encouraged him to go to the emergency room after he almost got into a car accident because he didn't see a bus out of the corner of his eye. He had suffered an eye stroke, had a blood clot that got loose and lodged in his brain that affected his eyesight. Ilene Corina stated that there is no history of stroke in their family, and it's very important that everyone know the medical history of family members, and this show will illustrate the importance of this knowledge and to act on any signs of impending stroke symptoms. Dr. Jennifer Ceonzo has been in practice since 2002, providing comprehensive eye exams, developmental vision therapy, sports vision therapy, and visual rehabilitation for patients of all ages. After completing her optometry degree at SUNY College of Optometry, where she was awarded the Frederick Brock Memorial Award for the outstanding clinical performance in vision therapy. The doctor continued her education with a residency at the Veterans Hospital in Northport, New York, specializing in vision therapy, low vision rehabilitation, and ocular disease. After being on staff at the Northport Veterans Hospital and years practicing behavioral optometry in Garden City and Staten Island, Dr. Jennifer has brought vision therapy to Central Long Island at Visionary Optometry Center for Visual Development as a fellow in the College of Optometrists in Vision Development. Throughout her years of practice, she has lectured to residents, students, parents groups, head trauma survivors, health professionals, teachers, and interventional professionals on the importance of visual development and rehabilitation in work, life, sports, and academics. Vision versus eyesight and how stroke and other ABIs and TBIs can affect vision, as well as visual rehabilitation to help yourself or a loved one, makes this show both interesting and educational and should not be missed. And I want to welcome you all to this very educational show. Thank you.
And the first one for 2024, and it really kicks the year off in an important fashion, because after all is said and done, this is what we want to do, right? We want to educate people. We want to help them to know the signs of a stroke, and so that they don't suffer any reoccurring situations after a stroke, which is where aphasia comes in. So we're going to let Steven start, because we've been chatting away in the Zoom green room and all that kind of stuff. And he really didn't have the opportunity to share his story. And truthfully, this show is centered around his story. So Steven, unmute yourself and welcome to the show. Thank you so much for your willingness to tell your story, because some people don't feel comfortable in telling their story. So we're happy and we're honored that you trust us enough and to come on to share your story. So welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, no problem. So let's go to I believe you have a new job, but let's go to your mom said, which Ilene is Steven's mom, that you were a teacher. So start off with that.
Yeah, so I was also in the Peace Corps, and when I came back from the Peace Corps, I was looking for teaching jobs. I got a solid substitute teaching job, but at the same time, I wanted to pick up some extra money. So I was working at Target as well.
Okay.
And
I like Target.
was struggling to find teaching jobs. So as a Target employee, I found a way to rise up in Target and get myself a position as a manager at the store.
Oh, wow.
I was actually starting a new role when I was at Target when I had the stroke. So
okay.
It was an overnight position. So it was a big change in my lifestyle at the time. And we were thinking that might have been one of the concerning factors for what could have caused a stroke. So with the job, it was long hours and overnight. So it was one of the things that we were nervous about.
So you do think that, and this is a conversation we've had for many years, how stress and overworking could really affect your health, and that's an important piece to this advocacy, the information for people, because as much as we need to work and we want to work, if we're sick, we're not going to be able to work anyway. So we have to find some balance within that. So where I know Judy said it in her information, but where were you when you had your stroke?
I actually woke up not seeing on the right side. And it's not like that hasn't happened before, where I'd wake up and I'd say to myself, oh, it's a little blurry, I can't see too well, it's because I'm just waking up. But when I noticed it wasn't coming back, and I noticed that it even after a shower, it still was going on where I couldn't see, I thought maybe it was dehydration. So I kept drinking water. And throughout the day, the vision still didn't come back, all the way till the end, where I figured, you know what? Maybe I should tell somebody that I'm struggling to see out of the right side.
Right.
Especially with the fact that it was both eyes.
Oh, it was both eyes. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh my gosh.
So I mean, it was honestly my girlfriend's birthday at the time. So I didn't want to make it about this that I'm struggling to see. It's a day for her. So but obviously I was getting more concerned as the day went on. So I told her, and we made a commitment. If at the end of the day the vision isn't getting better, I'll go to the hospital, get it looked at. Even in the hospital waiting room, I thought to myself, this is just dehydration. I don't even know why I'm here.
Right.
But then they did a test where they said, how many fingers am I holding up in each different position? And when the hand completely disappeared in the top right, I was like, oh my God, this is more serious than it is than I thought it was.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? We're glad that you were wise enough to eventually share. You waited, you were.
But what about the car accident that you almost had?
Oh, well, I mean, at the time I was driving to go pick up flowers, and there was a car in front of me that swerved. And as I was driving, I was like, I don't know why they swerved. I'm just going to keep going straight. And it was because a bus was making a right turn and the corner was overhanging into my lane. And I didn't see that until it was like maybe a few inches away from my side view mirror. That's when I saw it the whole bus. And I was like, how did I not see that coming up to it? It's because it
Right.
was in the top right corner, which is where my vision loss was.
Right.
So that's
So
when you went to
go
the
ahead.
hospital?
No, that's when I was concerned that this could be serious. And I figured maybe I should tell my girlfriend at least.
So
Yeah.
you told your girlfriend, and then you went to the hospital. So this was happening during the day because you don't work till the nighttime, right?
Yeah, I was actually off that night. But I didn't want my day off to be at the hospital. But
Right. Right.
we
Thank
went to the
God you went.
hospital. Yeah, exactly. I mean, thankfully she had the right mindset to take me there because I
Right.
was still in the boat of this is nothing.
Right.
Um, but when we found out that I was being admitted, that's when we realized this is going to be more serious because I got the MRI done and they saw that there was some damage there.
No, no. So how did you find out, Eileen?
I found out because my son called me and said, "Guess what, Mom? I had a stroke," and he was taking it as seriously then as he is now, or his behavior was. And of course, I went into complete mother advocate, oh my God mode,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
got over there. But I knew he was in good hands. I knew his girlfriend was there, and his girlfriend has medical professionals in the family. He was already in the hospital. So I knew I was limited to what I could do for him. But the idea, I don't know if you want me to bring this up now, but he said, Mom, everybody's asking me the family history. What is the family history? And I don't know. Has anyone ever had a stroke? Um, and I said, I don't know. I don't know. I thought my grandfather did, but I don't remember. And I thought he actually died 20 years younger than he actually died. So we talked about, I immediately got on the phone with my parents, and my parents are still alive at 90, and thank goodness they are, because then we developed a whole spreadsheet of the family medical history. And I went to their father and said, look, we need a family history of your family too. His family had cancer. So that was a whole new piece of advocacy work where I think of, we've always told people, know your own medical history, know when you had your last surgery, know your surgeries and all your medication, but your family history wasn't as relevant as it was that day.
So, I think we should do a whole show, Eileen. No, we should. Like, that's really important family history, you know, to so that you can understand why. And maybe I'm sure you've thought of this already, but did you create a spreadsheet? Like you just said, you created a spreadsheet. Is that spreadsheet available for other people to just, sometimes people aren't, uh, you know, knowledgeable on Excel or to keep it organized so that they could. So maybe we should like create all that stuff and work together to help people to simplify. Just plug in the information, just send it to your family, just have them add it to it.
Well, right
It's
now it's a Word document. It's very
yeah,
simple. It folds it up.
yeah,
It could be like the healthcare proxy. It doesn't have to be complicated,
right,
but
right.
you need that stuff on you, not filed away somewhere. You need it with you in an emergency. Your medications, all your medical information, you need on you. The fact that he
Well,
wasn't taking medication, that changed too now.
Yeah, yeah.
well, I just want to add something. What if you don't have any family left to ask the history about? What if you know of somebody in the family personally that had a stroke, but you don't know what the family history was before that or after that?
Well, that's always a chance people take. Adopted children also, adopted people have that experience. So it's not that the doctors in the hospital can't take care of you. It just makes everything a little faster because remember, nobody in my family had a stroke. So Stephen was starting off fresh from our family. So in our case, it was almost irrelevant, but it does save time and questions in the hospital when they go through these questions and not saying, I don't know. He said right away, I don't know my family history because I was adopted is very different than saying, I don't know my family history because we never talked about it.
Yeah, yeah,
So now we know to talk about it.
yeah, yeah. But should probably be added to the what's the other the affidavits that you need for healthcare.
The healthcare proxy
the
and
healthcare proxy.
medical power of
You
attorney.
should,
Yeah,
it should really be added to that package of
absolutely.
this is the important stuff that you need, you know.
Absolutely.
What do you do? How would you go about it finding out without family?
You may not be able to. I don't know, maybe the doctor can answer that better, but you may not be able to, and that's a chance you take. You know, even
Right,
ask
right.
family friends of your parents' friends or family who may not be directly related. Some adoption places have that information on their history, the family history, if it's relative, but some don't. Some may never have it, and then you're starting fresh. But then remember, you know, at 30 years old, Stephen can start keeping that history for his children.
Right,
You know, he's
right.
got to, if nobody else ever did it for him, it's not too late for him to start that new generation. And my other son also, I immediately mailed him the list of family history. So now he has it also.
No, wow. So, Dr. Jennifer, talk to us about, you know, specifically what an eye stroke is and how it affects. And if you have any questions for Stephen, because I know this is the first time you're hearing about his case, please feel free to ask him so we can learn a little bit more about, you know, the effects of eye stroke and what we should do moving forward.
Certainly. Well, thank you for having me on the show. Again, it is always such a pleasure. And I think this work is incredibly important. I think people do not realize the signs and the symptoms of a stroke, how to be prepared for any kind of medical emergency, just as Eileen's speaking about, you know your medical history. And if you don't, start speaking about it. These should be things we get together for all kinds of occasions. These are important things to discuss, even briefly, when you have a chance and you're with your loved ones. So eye strokes, and specifically losing vision because of a stroke, there are actually many different ways that we can have a stroke that affects our vision. Just based on the limited amount of information I heard from Steven, and that the stroke affected both of his eyes, that typically means that the stroke happened in the brain. But what many people don't realize is the majority of the tissue in your eye is just an outcropping of your brain.
Say that again, say it again, say it again, say it again.
The majority of the tissue, the flesh, the parts that make your eye,
right,
are just another outcropping of your brain. The retina of the eye, which is the back coating that collects the things that we see and sends it to our brain, that tissue is exactly like other tissues in our brain. So it can be damaged if there's bleeding in that tissue. It can be damaged if there's a clot that's thrown and stops oxygen flow and blood flow to that tissue, just in the same way that it can happen in the brain. The way that I know that this happened to Steven was that, as he said, they had him cover one eye at a time and started holding up some fingers in all different areas to see, could he see them? And then he checked the other eye in the emergency room. Right. And a stroke that happens in the brain usually affects both of your eyes. What a lot of people don't know is that everything we see to our right-hand side, this is my right-hand side, but I guess from the viewer's point, this is the right hand, right? Everything we see to one side, actually all is processed in one side of the brain, and vice versa. Everything seen over here is processed in this side. And that's because the retinas send the information through the optic nerve. Again, just like brain tissue, that optic nerve is very, very important tissue. And you can have a blood clot that's thrown into the optic nerve, that the blood vessel that supplies, so it can happen just behind one eye, or it can happen on your retina, and it can affect just, again, one eye at a time in a part of the retina. So it is so extremely important. And Steven, being your age, you wouldn't even have, no one would have suspected it. It would be very unusual for someone in their late 20s, early 30s to have a stroke. But as you are here and you're living proof, it can happen. And so losing vision and not noticing things on one side of your vision really is an emergency situation. And I don't blame you for not wanting to spend a day off, especially when you would never have suspected, based on family history or your age, that it could happen. But it doesn't matter what age. If my child were complaining to me that everything looked strange off to one side or off to another side, or one eye suddenly became blurred, or they saw a curtain, a shadowy curtain, go before their vision and come back. All of those are signs that you are either having a stroke right then or at risk of a major incident. So there are a lot of things to look out for.
What I was thinking while you were talking, Dr. Jennifer, and we've had you on the show, so we know that eye vision is a sign of a stroke, you know. But honestly, that's not in the, that information is just becoming, I should say, something important, a part of that stroke advocacy or stroke awareness information, because you know it's usually the face drooping and you know not being able to hold your arms up and all that kind of stuff, where, and a headache, that's another thing, but the vision, you know, it's really, this is really something that's just becoming more enlightened and more aware of it. Don't you agree?
I would agree with you. And I think a lot of the emphasis on teaching the general population how to recognize if they're having a stroke. If I don't see something and you're looking at me here, can you tell?
Yeah.
You can't, right? But if one side of my face were drooping, if I were smiling and half of my mouth doesn't go up, others can see it.
Right.
If I feel weakness on one side, that's very obvious. Or if I have a terrible headache, that's very obvious. Even as Steven said, you know, in retrospect, we listen to this story and we're like, oh, why didn't you go right away? Well, because like he said, sometimes we wake up and our vision's a little blurry.
Yeah.
Vision is it can be very hard to notice, even when you're missing a quarter of everything that you ought to be able to see, or even a half of everything you ought to be able to see. It can sometimes be very difficult to notice, but I think that it is a very important factor. And Stephen, it sounds like that was your only clue. Is that true?
Yeah. So in my case, when I had the vision loss, it came and went, it felt like, but I realize now that it was just my eyes compensating for what I can't see. So while I thought it was only certain moments of the day or whatever, I realized that it was more serious than it was when I got to the hospital and they did that test, because you don't realize what you can't see until you're told to, what can you see in that spot? And that's when you realize, oh, there's nothing that I could see right there. It really, really spooked me when his whole arm disappeared when I was trying to count how many fingers he was holding up.
And you didn't have any other signs, right? You didn't
No,
have any,
not at all.
you know, like you don't have high blood pressure, or you had nothing else leading up to this. And how long prior, how long were you noticing that you couldn't see?
So it was just that day. And then when I was in the hospital, I was in the hospital for 8 days because
Wow.
they were running all different types of tests to try to figure out what caused the stroke, what could be a factor that made the clot go to my brain, things like that. Um, and trust me, they found a whole mess of things that made me say, at least this was a smaller stroke than what could have happened, to just be
Right.
the small vision loss.
Right. So okay, you get out of the hospital. What is your preventative moving forward now? What do they say that you should be taking care of? And do you need to see an eye doctor like Dr. Jennifer? Is that on your proactive approach right now? Is that what either
Yeah.
recommend to you?
So when I was in the hospital, they did a lot of exploring to figure out what could possibly be the cause for this stroke, and they actually found a lot. And with that, I've been doing a lot of outpatient care. So I've been going to a neuro-ophthalmologist to monitor my vision mapping to see what it is that I can or can't see. I've went to a cardiologist because they wanted to monitor my heart. I now have a loop recorder in my chest. Um, I went to another cardiologist who did the PFO closure in my heart, they found out that I had a small hole in my heart that allowed the clot
Wow.
to get to my brain.
Wow.
Um, I went to a hematologist who diagnosed me with an autoimmune disorder, antiphospholipid syndrome, which is what caused the clot, which causes the clotting in my blood. So now I'm on blood thinners. I've went to an endocrinologist for my thyroid because they realized that during the MRI scans that I have larger nodules that could have led to possibly thicker blood. So they wanted me to get that checked out. And I went to a urologist as well, but I was a little bit less related.
Yeah,
Um,
but it's good that you're checking all you're actually
yeah,
checking all avenues.
honestly, they found so much wrong with me that it was almost a blessing that I went to the hospital to begin with. But
Yes.
now I'm going to all these doctors to get it all checked out and worked on.
And
It's
that
been really helpful.
and that's what I was just that's what just came to me because that as much as was it diagnosed, Eileen, was it diagnosed as a TIA?
No, no, this was not. This was a stroke he had.
Okay, because you were asking about TIAs before, so I
Yeah,
just
somebody
wanted to make
else.
sure.
Yeah, that was for somebody else.
I
Okay.
personally still have the vision loss.
Okay.
So I've been going to a neuro-ophthalmologist. I went twice already. The first time I went, it was eye-opening to see what it is that I can't see. Um,
Right.
then the second time with the follow-up, they've already seen improvement, but I still have vision loss in that upper right corner.
Yeah. What I was going to say was before was as severe as the stroke was, it really got you in the groove or, to check everything else. And now you have they found a hole in your heart, am I correct?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah. So
all that other, I mean, when my father one day fell at work walking down a hill and he broke his ankle and he wound up going into the hospital for his ankle. While he was in the hospital, he had a heart attack. So if he didn't go into the hospital to have his ankle fixed, he may have passed while he had that heart attack because he wouldn't have been in the hospital. But because he had a broken ankle, he was already there for them to treat him. So I think, like in my world, it's a little wink from God, like get to the hospital, get diagnosed, get your tests, get everything set in place because we want you to be here for a long time. We want you to be
yeah,
here for
so
a long time.
I'm sure that Dr. Ceonzo could clarify more on this, but in my case, with the PFO that I had in my heart, they made it clear that this was the avenue um, that the clot took to get to my brain, and it could have led to a more serious stroke. So the fact that they were able to find this PFO and close it up um, is what was this was actually like a good, not a good thing, but a good way for me to find out because it
Right,
could have been a lot worse. And
right. They
the
found out. They
PFO,
found it.
right, and the PFO is something that's normal in a lot of people. So 20 to 25% of the population have these PFOs that opens up their risk to these strokes. But in my case, the fact that it was a smaller stroke, they were able to close it up, which would minimize my risk for much further into the future.
Dr. Jennifer, what is a PFO?
Well, I'm not a cardiologist, but that is the small hole in your heart, correct? That,
Yeah,
because when the blood is pumping through the heart, when there are irregularities like that, and even, when valves don't work properly, the blood doesn't pump as well. And then you have pooling of the blood, which gives it a chance to clot. And then it eventually gets pumped into the blood vessels. The blood vessels near the heart are large, and depending on the size of the clot, it just goes and goes and goes until it hits a small enough artery that it stops and it can't go further. And that, if it happens in the brain, creates a stroke. And that, I think, Stephen, you have a very good attitude on this and you have a very good beat on this, that, in many ways, there could have been much more damage done had it been a larger clot or picked a different route to go through your brain. It could have affected other areas of your functioning. It's not pleasant to have difficulty seeing in one area of your vision. Certainly not. But it was for you. It sounds to me like your warning sign And luckily, they were able to take care of this. And it also sounds as though you somewhat had the perfect storm. As you said, 20 to 25% of the population has a PFO, this hole in the heart that can create a clot. But you also had the antiphospholipid syndrome, right? Which
Yep.
further made your cardiac system much more likely to create that clot. Is that
So
accurate?
personally, in my case, the way that the doctors were looking at it was that the hole in my heart is what allowed the clot to travel to my brain. Because in the way the body works is that the blood, like clots can form throughout the body. It could mostly they form in the legs and things like that. Um, but what should happen is your blood travels to your body and then it travels back to your heart, which takes it to the lungs. So that way it can pick up air. And your lungs, while obviously you don't want clotting in your body, but your lungs have ways to handle those clots and get rid of those clots. But if you have a hole in your heart, instead of traveling to the lungs, it could travel back to your body, which could take it straight to the brain. So in my case, that's what they figured happened was that it took a clot from somewhere in my body that formed and took it straight to the brain instead of taking it to the lungs where it has a proper removal system. But the antiphospholipid syndrome is what made my blood hypercoagulable, made it able to clot easy. So,
So Ilene, I know we spoke about before knowing your history, but I know you're tell everybody, because we started this show off a little bit different because I wanted really Steven to speak, but I really want yourself and Dr. Jennifer to talk about, where you come from and how, and because I know you're an advocate, I know you're a doctor, Jennifer, but talk about, how you got into this and your passion for it and what you've learned from this, because we can keep learning every single day. So Ilene, go first.
So I'll just want to share. Isn't he brilliant? He's just so
He's
smart.
brilliant.
Brilliant.
And I do want to
Just throwing it
share.
out there.
I do want to share that I have written down on my notes that I do want to go into your Peace Corps work. That like I didn't want to stop the flow of the show, but I just get humbled that you went out and you were a Peace Corps worker. So we are going to get to that, but go ahead, Ilene.
Well, just touching on that, because in my notes I wrote that because the first thing I thought is when he went in the Peace Corps, he got a really good physical, and
Yeah.
I thought he had
Wow.
everything checked, the cardio check and all that checking. So I was really surprised to hear that this is something that people are born with, this hole in the heart, and the doctors described it. The first breath it closes up. His brother, my other son, was born at 23 weeks instead of 40 weeks, severely premature. And
Wow.
he had this and almost had the surgery that to close it at 3 pounds, but it closed up on its own. So I was
Wow.
aware of this process of the hole in the heart and what happens. And if anybody was going to have medical problems, I thought it would be his brother, not Steven, because Steven has
Right.
shown, that he was always seems fine. And I think that's what we sometimes forget. But just a quick background.
And wait, before
Yeah.
you continue, because I want to make a note of this. Like, why didn't the Peace Corps catch this?
Well, not that necessarily the Peace Corps, but all the
Yeah,
exams
well,
he
that's what
went
I'm
in.
saying. Like, if he
Yeah.
was released to go into the Peace Corps, if he had an exam before it, why didn't they catch all these situations that Stephen had? Like,
so these are like the things that were wrong with me that led to this stroke were things that kind of fall under the radar just because necessarily they're not necessarily risk factors until something happens almost. So
uh,
with that, like I said, with this PFO, it's pretty popular that people have these holes in their hearts,
okay,
and it's not really a problem until it becomes one. The same thing with the antiphospholipid syndrome. They said that it wasn't as severe. So honestly, if I didn't have a stroke, they might not have even put me on any kind of medication for it in the first place. So it's not that uh, there's a chance that the doctors already knew that that was a thing, but kind of blew it off as if it wasn't really that important just because it was something slight.
hmm,
But it was just this mix of ingredients that led to a stroke, a smaller stroke, but a stroke.
But don't you think that this is just coming to me? So I could be wrong in my thought process, but if they had a wink of it, maybe they should have just like noted it on your report. Like they don't have to do anything, they don't have to deny you from going into the Peace Corps, but it would have been nice to have a full report, not like this is not important. This is, I'm just saying, I mean, and honestly, I don't know what the process is, and I don't know, we don't know the whole scope of it. So forgive me if I'm speaking out of turn. I don't mean to do that. I'm just like putting things out there because there's so many missing pieces to the dots. That's all. That's
Renee,
all.
you're absolutely right. And I just want to add to that, that's what it may be in his records. It may be in his chart, in his the portal that we never looked at.
Okay.
Nobody thought of looking at it because he was healthy and fine.
Right.
In
Okay.
my
That's
personal
perfect.
case with a PFO, it's not normally tested on people. And the way that I was, diagnosed to have this PFO was they did an echocardiogram with bubble solution just to see how the bubbles traveled through my heart. And that was where they were able to catch that there was something not right, and they were seeing the way the bubbles were going through my blood system. But like that's not something that everybody's going to their doctor to go test. That's not something that,
Right. Right.
your doctor's
Right.
going to say, I'm going to sign you up for this to get it checked
Right.
out.
Right. Right.
Um,
Right.
I just want
so
to say something.
after the stroke.
I think it's important for everyone, no matter what test you have, if you have an MRI, a CAT scan, whatever, to ask the center for a copy of not only the report, but you want it on a video, a CD, so that you have as part of your.
No, I was gonna
Sometimes
say,
the doctor will do an MRI and say everything's fine, and not. If you read it, you might read something in it that you can question them about.
I was just talking to a friend the other day, and I know that Dr. Jennifer knows this. I'm sure Eileen knows it as well. I'm sure Stephen and Judy know it. But now Stephen, you said they have, Eileen, you said they have portals. So now all our information is in one place, which does make the healthcare a little bit better, because all your doctors, if they're in that network, they could view your history, right? That helps a tremendous amount.
It helps. However, if you cannot access it for whatever reason, it's best to get a copy for yourself.
I
and
agree.
Then you can keep your own file. So if you can't get into the portal or something is wrong with your computer, you have copies of everything and you're aware of it. Some people might not even check the portal.
I work with a family member now regularly that has a lot of medical conditions, and I looked up because they're not all associated with the same facilities, and so I print out the reports for each doctor that may not read them, and I found a mistake in the type of medication and the medication dosage. So when I wrote to the doctor, his response to me was, "Oh, why, oi," and then rewrote it the right way. But if somebody got that original report, it would have been the wrong information on a new medication.
Right.
That was a trial. He was on a trial for a medication. I do want to say, though, that, part of what we do at Pulse is I know statistics are really important. And of course, every person matters, but misdiagnoses are a serious, serious problem in this country. And I just pulled up the information that each year, 371,000 people will die because of a misdiagnosis, and there's 424,000 permanent disabilities. The Society to Improve Diagnostic Errors was started by the chief of medicine at the VA. I don't know which, Dr. Jennifer, if you know who that is, but he started this because of his passion of misdiagnosis. And we as patients and family members must be aware that mistakes happen. And if we think something is wrong, chances are it might be. And you asked about my background, Renee. It goes back over 30 years when my son bled to death from a tonsillectomy, that if I knew then what I know now, that people die because of medical errors and doctors can make mistakes, I would have been more proactive. And that's what we've been doing for the last 25 years, is educating the public on this information, that if you have trouble seeing, it could be a problem. And if the doctor says, don't worry about it, I'm fine, go to another doctor. Don't be afraid to reach out to either your organization or our organization or somebody who's going to say, look, if you know, if you're not comfortable, you can continue searching and have somebody hold your hand through that support, because mistakes happen. If we know the statistics that many people die and are injured because, hey, they're human. People are human. We're not talking about blaming anyone, but
Yeah.
we have to be better prepared to enter the healthcare system. Our families must be better prepared to help us in that way. And the healthcare system must be ready to make a mistake and admit their mistake and fix it before it causes somebody's injury or death.
And I have an important note, an important part in my brain. Don't wait for something to happen before you start to become an advocate, or before. And me, I don't know anything about medicine. I'm the worst about medicine. I honestly don't know anything. So, you know, reaching out to someone like Ilene, who's an advocate, she doesn't care whether you have had something happen in your life. She wants to help you to not have anything happen, to work prior to anything happening, and or to at least get the signs so that you could live a healthier life, a long life. So I think that's really important. Please don't wait until something happens to start to do your homework on history, to start to go to doctors, to have, and that's a whole different thing that we all agree on, that's trying, because you know, sometimes insurance won't cover a test because you didn't have something happening. So, you know, and that's sad, because then 20 years down the road, something comes up and, oh, if you would have found out 20 years younger, you know, before, you wouldn't have had that situation. So we fight with the insurance companies all the time. I want to rephrase that. I always say I don't want to fight with the insurance companies. I just want to have an open and honest communication with them to work together to accomplish the goal. They don't know, sitting in their office, an insurance company or insurance, you know, lawmakers, of actually what happened. Talk to me. I'm a stroke patient. I know. You know, like, you know, talk to Steven. He experienced it. Get our voices in that conversation. So thank you. It's a passion of mine, because I get frustrated with insurances and how that operates. But Dr. Jennifer, take the floor. Talk to us a little about, you know, I know we usually let you share, you know, where you are, what you do, how you got into this work. But I think it's important to lay the groundwork for, you know, your work with stroke, you know, eye strokes.
Sure. And you know, as Judy mentioned, my early history was after going through optometry school, I did a residency at the Veterans Hospital. And a tremendous number of our patients there were rehabilitation patients. So in addition to doing standard eye exams where we are diagnosing problems, rehabilitative care, which really is where I am concentrated now, I tend not to deal with the emergency situation like Steven experienced that day when he first realized something was not quite right about the right-hand side of his vision. I'm typically not the first person to find out that you've lost vision on one side or another side, or to diagnose exactly what kind of eye stroke a person might have had. However, I certainly have had plenty of training in that area at the VA, and that was definitely an area that we needed to be aware of and be cognizant of. But now, after working in that area, I really did decide to concentrate on rehabilitation, because I do feel that this is an area that is underrepresented, and most people don't even realize. Oftentimes they're going frequently to an eye doctor, in your case, Stephen, a neuro-ophthalmologist, which is basically a combination of an ophthalmologist and a neurologist.
Wow.
This person has gone through extensive amounts of training and residency training and further education. And so they're really very, very well prepared to take a look at the eyes and the brain and the way those two interact. And they'll monitor and say, well, let's just see what spontaneous improvement can happen. And I think you'll learn to live with this. Sometimes people do. And sometimes, you know, especially in younger patients like Steven, they'll learn how to compensate for that loss of vision and not really being able to see in that one area of their vision. But sometimes people really do struggle tremendously in that arena. And there are actually activities and exercises that can be done to help a person compensate. That's the first thing. You know, there are certainly no guarantees that that vision could come back, and in many cases that vision does not come back. I would say in the majority of cases. Sometimes that the size of the area that's not seeing does shrink somewhat. And I think, Steven, you had said you experienced that, which is wonderful because any shrinkage in that area is always better. But for some patients, they may need specialized care to help compensate for that. You know, losing vision that is high is not as disabling as losing the vision that is low. Because when you think about the things that could be a problem for you, a lot of them are down, curbs and stairs. And, you know, those are the kind of things that if you don't see them and you trip and fall, you could have further injury, which we certainly don't want to happen to anyone. But just as Steven noticed, there are some things that are up, you know, bus mirrors and, you know, cupboards and cabinets that we could accidentally run into. So my area of vision, and the reason that I wanted to get into this area, is because I think it's incredibly impactful. It can make a substantial difference after a stroke. Not only do people lose part of their vision after a stroke, sometimes people see double after a stroke. Sometimes they really struggle to read because our eyes have to work differently in order to look up close than they do far away. And some people lose that ability to pull their eyes in. So they're just struggling to make the eyes focus on a book. And that can be incredibly upsetting. Think about how many things you do, whether it's to return to work or even to be on this Zoom conference. If it were painful to be looking at it, or you saw double of it, you wouldn't be able to stay here for very long and be able to have this conversation. And let alone a book or just the types of things that people enjoy doing, you know, when they are recuperating, and they just want to enjoy some downtime in life. So that's the biggest reason why I got involved in this rehabilitation, is that vision influences so many things in our lives.
If I could just say, it truly is underrepresented, the vision rehabilitation. After I was in the hospital, I was told to see an occupational therapist and look into vision therapy. And I went down a list of all occupational therapists that I could call. And it was the very last one on the list that had somebody who could even do the vision therapy.
Wow.
Yeah. And some of the things that I did, some of the activities that I did were helpful, and they were just small things that just helped me keep practicing with my vision. But yeah, it's stuff that honestly I wouldn't have thought to have done myself. So it's a helpful service to have, and to see that it was just so, like you said, underrepresented, it was a surprise.
Yeah.
Wow. Dr. Jennifer, I have a question for you, and it's 11 o'clock already. Everybody okay just to go 5 or 10 minutes over? Is everybody okay with that? I don't want to close out because we have too much important stuff here. Steven had mentioned vision mapping. What is vision mapping?
Vision mapping, it's typically called a visual field test. And there are multiple different ways to do this. The most common way is using a computer that has basically a chin rest for the person and a strap to keep your head very still. I call it the world's most boring video game. They give you a Jeopardy clicker and you cover one eye, because we want to know one eye at a time to see if there's a difference there. And so they'll have you wear usually an eye patch like a pirate, and you have your clicker, and you're looking in a dome in this computerized machine, and it's dimly lit in the room. And basically every time a flash of light, whether it's bright or dim, big or small, and it might be up, it might be down, one side or another, anytime the person sees one, they click. And they do this for each eye. And what this gives us as practitioners is a map. If you think about it, as you're looking at the screen right now, you don't just see what you're looking at, which may be me or Judy or Eileen, right? You also see what's off to the sides. And that map tells them how much at the center as well as off to either side or top and bottom is present. If the person sees things that are bright, or if the person doesn't see any bright, dim light there, nothing at all. And so it really gives us a map. Some people can't do that type of test. So there are some other types that are done sometimes with a large board on a wall and a wand and some manual dots that come in from the side.
Right, right.
And
I didn't
in my
realize.
personal case, I was
I
going to
didn't
say my
realize,
personal
but
case.
okay,
Wait.
go ahead.
Go ahead, Steven, and then
Oh,
Judy can go.
I was going to say, in my own personal case, I struggled to read a lot when I first started. I could see the word directly ahead, but because it's in the upper right corner, my vision loss, I wasn't really able to see the next word. So while other people can fluidly see the sentence as they're reading it, I struggled to see that. And now I experience also at the end of work, if I'm very exhausted, I lose a lot of my vision beyond just the upper right. And when it comes to reading the text on screens, it gets very difficult.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Those are the kinds of things that are to our right. Your rear view mirror in your car is to your right hand side, your upper right hand side. There are even driving specialists at certain schools that are certified in helping people train how to improve their driving after visual field loss like yours, Stephen. And, you know, if ever that were a problem for anyone who's listening to this TV show, that it's really very important. You can find people like that. They do need a recommendation and they need information about that visual field mapping, but then they can use that information to either help with assistive devices or sometimes just a lesson or two to sort of help you understand how best to compensate for that. Some people figure it out on their own, but it's really better and safer to have an expert guiding you through it.
Wow.
I didn't realize it was about 15 years ago. I went to an eye doctor, and they used to make you go into various rooms and do different things. You could be there for hours. And one test they did was blowing in your eye. I don't know what that had to do with anything. And then I did have visual mapping, and nobody ever explained why they were doing it. So now I have a clearer idea. I had it done about 15 years ago. It was a normal practice in that particular eye doctor's office. And he wasn't my first eye doctor, nor is he my current one. But now I understand it. But it was something they did for every single patient. And what does blowing in your eye have to do with anything?
That actually measures the pressure in the eye. We don't want that to be high because that's very unhealthy for the retina. As I said, it's brain tissue. So pressure in the eye would be like pressure in the brain. Neither is healthy for those tissues.
This was a routine practice by that doctor. However, I stopped going there because you could be there for hours before you actually saw the doctor, and I don't have hours to waste.
So I can't tell you how important this show was, because, 2024, is our celebration 10th anniversary. And to start it off with something in the field that's new and really upcoming, to me, it's almost breaking news that, when Luke Perry passed away, he was 50 some years old and he suffered a stroke, a massive stroke, and he passed away. I really think that it brought a little more light to the publication of strokes. We used to be thought of as your grandparents only had strokes. And nobody really knew that people our age, Stephen, because I was 26 when I suffered a major stroke, suffered strokes. And it's really good to keep this conversation going, and that you all came on to talk about something that's really important, because eye vision is not in that scope, be fast. It's fast, but be fast now. Now be fast is one of the upcoming signs of a stroke. So it's really important that we begin the year by sharing that be fast. Judy, do you want to talk about be fast?
B is for balance. If your balance is off. E is for eyes. Anything different with your eyesight, you must get help. Fast, F, is face. If your face is distorted in any way, if you can't stick your tongue out, if you stick your tongue out and it's crooked, anything that's distorted. The arms, you have to be able to extend both arms out straight. If one is drooping, that's a sign of a stroke. S is speech. If your speech is not clear, if it's muffled, if it cannot be understood, big sign of a stroke. And T for time. Time is of the essence. You must get help immediately. If someone calls 911 for an emergency, you must say it's a stroke. It looks like a stroke is happening. It's urgent. That
will put them into stroke mode. That will give them a little light that I know time is of the essence with everything, but it puts a little urgency on it. So we always add on. Our organization has always been an advocate to add on to that T, because time is of the essence, but what do you do with that time, and how are you going to handle that time?
I've also heard that somebody went into a meeting and the woman in the meeting was laughing for no reason. Laughing or crying for no reason at all is a sign of a stroke. She went out in the parking lot to get to her car and she had the stroke. So that is also a sign that nobody's mentioned.
Yeah. So we're gonna start to wrap up, but I do want to focus for one moment, Steven, on your Peace Corps work. What is actually the Peace Corps? I mean, you always hear about it, and it really sounds like a really humble investment of your time to do something for the world. So what is the Peace Corps, and how long did you do that?
Yeah, so the Peace Corps, when you sign up for the Peace Corps, you come with a background of experience. So I have a teaching degree, and before I got into a teaching career, I wanted to do something a bit more ambitious. So when I signed up for the Peace Corps, I decided I'd put my education degree to use and see if I could get into a literacy program somewhere in the world. I personally didn't pick anywhere. Like I just said I'd rather go to any country. And they sent me to Guyana in South America.
Wow.
And when they sent me there, they gave me the tools that I needed in order to improve the literacy rate in the part of the country that they were going to place me in. But they also had me do some tests and see how I live in an easier village to live in. So I lived there for about 2 months. And then after the tests and making sure that I'm ready for 2 years of this experience, they sent me into a part of the country that was more closed off, and a part of the country that has no electricity, no water, things like that. And I lived with the village for 2 years to improve the literacy rate in the country. So that went beyond just working with the children, but working with the adults and sometimes working with the government in order to improve the systems that they currently have in place.
Wow.
Stephen, I want to say thank you for your service.
Yes.
Thank you.
mean, because we don't know how blessed we are until you do what you do and take yourself out of the environment. The world is so big. And so many people have really challenging lives. And it's and you carry that in your heart now. So that makes you a really very special person, a very special person. Ilene, I know you want to say something.
Yes, he's very special.
Yeah, yeah, you got
Yeah, I
special
was very
children.
proud of him. It was all his idea, and the obstacles that he had to go through on his own was very was scary and exciting. So, to see somebody like him in a weakened state of being sick is very unexpected, unplanned, and I think that's what we have to think about is that, we all are very fragile in places inside our bodies, even though if we're very strong on the outside. So
Hmm.
I appreciate you, Renee, and what you do to keep this going and keep the conversation going and the education. You don't have to do this, and you do. And it's really important that people recognize. When I did the show the first time, I think the first thing I said to you is I have nothing to do with stroke, but I could talk about advocacy, and boom, here we are. So we don't know how it's going to hit us and how people
Yeah,
are touched by you and what you do. So thank you
yeah.
for that.
But it's my organization. It's people like Judy. It's people like Jim. It's people like Ginny. It's people like Diane. It's people like Marlon. We just got a new board member, John, on the team. Without all of them doing the work, like, when I heard about Steven, I called Judy, because I have to, like I said, I have to work a full-time job, but I am aware of things. And Judy reached out to you right away. So I want to give kudos to my team, because without them, I'm the front, I'm the face of it, but it's not me. It's not me. I could never do this without my foundation and my people. They're wonderful.
And Renee, you said I could just comment that in March you're going
Yes,
to be doing
absolutely.
two-day training, family-centered patient advocacy. We encourage people to advocate for each other, friends and people helping people. We've been doing this since 2006. It's going to be live at the Plainview Holiday Inn on Long Island. We welcome people to come and be trained as a patient advocate. Misdiagnosis is going to be a big topic there, as well as communication and helping each other through the healthcare system. We're not thinking about our health when we talk about our organization of Pulse. We're there to support you through the health care. The health is between the doctor and the patient. Getting the right care is what we look at.
Mm. I
So
have a favor though, Ilene. I can't come to Long Island, but I would be humbled and honored if you would give that advocacy training to my board, so that you could do it can you do it online for
yeah,
us?
we'll work something out, of
Yeah,
course.
yeah, because I think that's just important for us to keep educating ourselves and to learning and to grow, I really think that's so important. So, Dr. Jennifer, Stephen, Ilene, of course, Judy, like, thank you so much for being a part of our world and for sharing your information. Like I said, this is our 10-year anniversary. We hope that you'll come back throughout the year. And maybe the next show we'll talk about where we've been and where we're going, and with both of you, and Stephen, you're more than welcome to join us, what we're going to do moving forward. That's really our goal, is over the next 10 years, like, let's just have a workshop on live workshop so that we could figure out like how we can help each other, because teamwork gets the work done, when you can't do things by yourself, like me with my organization. So I hope that you'll join us. Judy will maybe reach out to you for May or something like that to really start to talk about moving forward. Does that work for everybody?
Sure.
Wonderful.
Okay. Do you want to say anything, Jennifer? I see you, Dr. Jen.
I wanted to say thank you for the important work that you're doing. I think today's show, from a vision standpoint and as a vision rehabilitation specialist, I think that this kind of awareness is incredibly important. But even more important, I love that you continue to share with people how to recognize the signs of a stroke. You continue to get the awareness out there of the importance of your family history, the importance of being an advocate, Ilene. It's really very, it's critical work that you're doing. So thank you.
Oh, anytime, anytime. And once we get off, I will, download this from Facebook. I will, put it on YouTube. I'll send out a rewind. I'll send it to you guys. You could spread the word that way, or of course it'll be on our website. So I can't thank you guys enough. Thank you, Judy. Jim, we hope you're feeling better. We're praying for you, and once again, Dom, let me put that video up one more time, the show, the photo. This show is dedicated in loving memory of Ralph Cortellessa. Hang on, let me get out. Let me just leave it there for 1 second. And we really want everybody to remember that in one split second, this gift of life could be taken away. So appreciate it. Live every moment to the fullest. It's important. You don't want to wait until something happens to understand that and to grasp that. It's important. So thank you so much to everybody. Anybody have anything that they want to share, last minute words of wisdom? Steven, do you want to share anything, your last minute words of wisdom?
Just to keep in mind that something as small as slight vision loss can be very serious. So just making sure that people understand that it's not a bad thing to go seek out that help.
That's a great point. That's a great point. Judy, do you have anything you'd like to mention?
Just, I want to wish everybody good health in the new year. And if you have any signs that look like a problem, please get help immediately.
Yep. Thank you, Judy. Ilene, you have anything you want to last minute?
No, I just want to thank you again and thank you for highlighting Steven. I felt a little alone until today. So it's nice to have that support. Thank you.
Yes, we're there. We're there. That's what we love to do. Dr. Jennifer, I know you just spoke, but anything you want to say last moment? Nothing that went through your brain?
Just to urge patients that if someone tells you this is as good as your vision can get after a stroke, any type of stroke that affects your vision, please to remember that there are groups out there, but you might have to be persistent to find them. Like Steven said, there is help out there and there are ways to rehabilitate and to really enjoy your life again.
Thank you so much, everybody. We always blow our kisses on 3 if you feel comfortable. Thank you so much for joining us today. Once again, we're truly blessed, and we look forward to seeing you on February 11th. Judy has 2 shows booked, and without Judy doing her work, these shows would not make it on air. She does an a lot of work on the background.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. On 3, 1, 2, 3. Bye, everybody. See you later.
God bless you all.
Day. Bye.
Yo no sé qué tú piensas, yo no sé lo que haré, yo no sé lo que estoy perdiendo. ¿Qué va a pasar? No me puedes escuchar. yo